IG Live. I'm excited to talk to Lynnor Bontigao, who is an author and an illustrator. Pretty amazing combination. So thank you all for joining us again. And we also have a weekly giveaway going on. It ends tonight at midnight, so if you haven't entered, be sure to check that out. Hold on just a minute. I'm just gonna. I sent you an invitation also. So thanks to all of you for your support that allows us to do these interviews every week. Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
Good, good. Finally, I
Yeah.
had like a little SOS in that I sent you.
No, I saw it, but then as soon as I saw it, I saw that it seemed like it was working. So,
Yeah.
well, it is so lovely to see you and to get to interview. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me and thank you for doing what you do in highlighting multicultural books.
Oh, well, thank you. It's so exciting for me. I feel like I have the dream job because I get to do all the interviews with these amazing creators like you. I always think it's fascinating people who are authors and illustrators, which is an amazing combination. Why don't you, maybe you could start, introduce yourself, or I think most people probably already know who you are, but go ahead and then what your journey was to becoming an author and an illustrator.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Lynnor Bontigao and I am an author illustrator of my debut book, Sari-Sari Summers, right there. And I'm also an illustrator of other books that, yes,
Yes.
and Liana is nicely holding up. So I've been so fortunate to do a lot of other people's works too. And my background is in fine arts, advertising. I've always loved art. But I came to this country thinking I would do advertising job because that's what I studied. But in college, I actually joined a children's illustrator group that was newly forming in the Philippines. It was called Ang Inc. or Illustrator, Ilustrador ng Kabataan or Illustrators for Children. And back then it was just starting. So I think from that group, I realized like this is what I wanted to do. But being my background in finance, when I moved to America, advertising, that's the job I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. So I switched and pivoted to being a programmer. The Y2K was happening. They had a lot of need for programmers, so I studied it and I stayed at that job for a long time. And I didn't think at all I was gonna last because I was like, I'm creative. I cannot do this. But actually, turns out I like the logical part of it and I like solving problems. I also, I guess I was good at it. So I lasted quite a while, 15 years, but just so I could keep that, that seed that was planted a long time ago. I went to conferences, like children's book conferences, to learn about the industry while I was also working. And I couldn't focus on it until I got laid off after 15 years as a programmer. And they were doing a lot of layoffs back then. So I was like, this is it. This is
Mm.
my chance. I can focus on it, right? And I through social media, I became friends with a couple of people who were also just beginning, and we formed a collective. We learned from each other, and we were all in different phases. And again, through social media, I connected with an agent that liked my work, and the rest is history, I guess.
That's amazing. I love that you took the opportunity when something kind of bad happened to you that you're like, okay, I'm going to see this as an opportunity to do something else that I really love doing. And um,
Right.
I'm curious. So you got an agent. You started mostly as an illustrator first, right? Um, what's the process like for you when you get a? I mean, you can take any example you want, but like say you've got like the world's best house, best class plant, and Kailani's gift. When you receive, say this book or any of the books, when you receive a manuscript to review, what's the process like for you to create the illustrations?
Well, so when I read a manuscript, there is something that in my gut tells me I would love to do the story,
Mm,
especially if I see images right away, or if I could imagine the scene and what the characters would look like. That to me is almost an immediate yes. Like, oh, I love this story so much, right? Like, there's something in it, in like untouchable, intangible that I can't explain. Like, there's a connection that I say, oh, I would love to do this story. And then there's the story itself that it's really good, right? So there's a connection, but then the story itself is really good. And then, the rest is like the budget. Is the timing going to be okay? Am I going to be able to do it in the span of time that they want me to? And so those factors go in there. And yeah, it's
What
helpful if
usually, like for say the timeline, how much time do you usually get? Like, how long does it usually take you to say to illustrate?
so we usually go in phases. So the sketches is probably maybe 2 months, maybe more. And then the final art would probably be about 6 months, 4 to 6 months. And on a picture book. So it takes a long time. There's a lot of back and forth
Right.
with art director, and sometimes there's the feedback takes a while,
Mhm.
and sometimes I would also need time to work on the revisions and stuff like that. So it takes a long time.
What about for something like, sorry, I was just looking for this, the series that you've done, the Seashell Key. Is it different because it's not a picture book. It's for an older audience, but it does have still the full color illustration. And so obviously it has less illustrations, I guess, or though I don't know. You have a lot of
Mm,
illustrations in here. Is it
right.
is that a different process than when you're doing a picture book, or is it pretty similar?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was doing Seashell Key, I felt like I was in a boot camp because I was actually doing a lot of art. It's double the pages. It's 80 pages, whereas a picture book would normally be 40. And it's all full color, and every page has an illustration. Um, and then, like, yeah, the chapter also, and then the cover, and then the side um art, the patterns on the side. Yeah, so it's very different, but also surprisingly less time, I would say, because I guess they want the series to come out one after the other, eat one book after the other. So it's a little bit faster. I remember um while I was doing final art, I probably was also doing uh starting on some sketches. So it was like kind of more overlap on
Oh, you
chapter
mean
book.
you were already starting on the sketches for the next book?
Yeah,
Oh,
kind of. It seems a little faster for the chapter book for me. Whereas in picture books, I like to put a lot of detail also in picture books where you have time to wander on the spread and look around the page, right? But
right.
the editor actually, when I was nervous before I said yes to Seashell Key,
Hmm.
yeah, a little bit more like my little touches. But so when before I said yes to Seashell Key, I told them like I'm a little nervous. I also reach out to people that I know who have done chapter books, and their one advice to me is simplify so that you could repeat the characters a lot of times, but also like the backgrounds especially. Good thing is just the beach, most of the picture and seashore is like, okay, sand and trees. So a little bit more simple. But yeah, they definitely said simplify, and that's the way that you can not feel so burnt out,
Right.
right? Because it's a lot of art, yeah.
And I guess like you said too, the way that kids are reading the book is different than a picture book where you like you said you picture books you spend a lot of time looking at the illustrations, whereas with a chapter book they're probably going through it faster,
Right.
maybe
The
more on the text.
Yes, it's focused on the text. It's yeah, faster reading, and yeah, I think that's it. They go faster on chapter books.
But that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it. You would think that a chapter book would have less art, but it actually has almost double the art at least, right?
Yeah, because I guess this is chapter book that would entice them to become
Right.
longer readers because it's an early reader chapter book series. So you want to entice them with enough art and then also like build their vocabulary and like yeah, get them to read more on their own independently, right?
Right. Interesting. one of the things that I noticed that I'm sure people have picked up on is that all of your books feature diverse characters. I mean, even Seashell Key, which you wouldn't think is anything necessarily multicultural, but all of the kids in it are diverse. Same with like at the end of the day, which I loved. You know, it was just a
Yeah.
family, all with diverse characters. But it must have been really special to illustrate the Filipino book or Filipino inspired book, the Kailani's Gift. Am I saying that
Mm-hmm.
right, Kailani?
Yes,
Um,
Kailani skills.
so, how did you approach the project, and how did you kind of figure out how you were going to honor the Filipino culture in the book? Because, like you said, I mean, obviously there's a text that you're going along with, but I'm sure you have like a lot of touches in the background and things that you decided to bring into it.
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, Dorina Lazo Gilmore-Young wrote this book, and she was one of the people that is one of my bucket list authors that I want to work with. So she wrote Cora Cook's Pansit, which has been published like I don't know, she said like over 12 years ago. It's still in print and it's still one of the highly recommended books if anyone is looking for Filipino books. So she's one of the authors I wanted to work with. So when it came to me, I was so happy. And it's a Philippine, she wanted to make sure that, yes, we honor the Philippines and put like the traditional outfits. You have Filipino food featured in it, the tightness of the family. Yeah. And then also, in a way, traditional outfits, but one of the characters, they put their own spin on the tinikling dance, which is the traditional Filipino dance. And Zandro, he dances a teenager, he dances hip hop style or like a little bit more, puppet, right? It's a little bit more cool to the generation. So it brings the younger crowd in. And yeah, I wanted to bring a lot of the little details in the household, for example, what I grew up seeing in my house or what we grew up eating in the house. And little touches I put in there. So there's always like the broom that we use in the Philippines. It's only in the Philippines. It's called the walis tambo. And there's an indoor broom. There's an outdoor broom. And so in the garage is the outdoor broom. Things like that, like little Filipino touches that a
Yeah,
Filipino would pick up on. Yeah.
right.
The
Yeah.
the mat that says mabuhay, welcome, right? So it's like little things like that that people can relate to if you grew up in that household. And I want to honor that way.
And what effect do you think it has on kids? Because I know that's something that's really important to you that you said that you want kids to be able to, like you just said, like to look at your books and say, hey, I know that food, or that's how we do it in our house, or I recognize that. What effect do you think it has on a kid to be able to see themselves in the pages of a book like that?
I hope it has a great impact because I grew up not seeing
Right.
characters in picture books. I didn't grow up with children's books at all, actually, in my household. I only learned to love picture books. It wasn't readily available. So only in college, like when I joined the illustrator group, that I started collecting picture books and I visited this children's bookstore once a week. And whenever I saved up enough money, I would buy picture books. It's expensive back home. Yeah, you earn pesos, or you only have so many pesos, and then you have to convert that to dollar because you paid the dollar amount, and it was like so expensive. So
Wow.
one picture book, I would probably have to save up quite a bit,
Mhm.
and so it's even more special to people who like me didn't grow up with picture books, and especially not seeing anyone that looked like me. I hope that the kids that see that would um, say they would feel pride and instead of embarrassed because they brought a food into recess that's probably different. It's not a
Right.
sandwich, right? Or I hope they feel that they fit in this world. Like growing up again, I felt like I was like this jigsaw puzzle that didn't quite fit right.
Right.
um, so when I last visited um, a, a school this week, one kid said like, "Hey, I'm Filipino," and I felt
Uh,
that pride. I felt like, yes, she could see that this is an author, an illustrator who wrote about stuff that my mom only talks about, or that my grandma only talks about. And then she said like, "Oh, we have that." And so I feel like, oh, it's a way for the parents to connect with the kid who probably didn't grow up in the Philippines, that they could show this part of the world that they're not familiar with, but yet so homey, right? Because that's what their parents grew up with, and that's where their grandparents are from.
well, that
So
was
I
something.
hope that,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I hope that we all figure out that we're all just pieces of
Mm,
this big colorful puzzle, and that we each find our place in it.
I love that. What a great way to think about it. And I also love that you're talking about such a common experience of kids who maybe they grew up here, but their parents or their grandparents are from somewhere else, which of course is what you talk about in Sari-Sari Summers, which I want to talk about since that's one that you wrote and illustrated. Hold on. So excited to hear that you were able to connect with a Filipino child who found excitement, comfort, and representation in your book. Yes, it is
Um,
amazing to have that, to make that kind of connection. Um,
yeah,
I'm sure it must have been also affected the other kids who might look at that child differently and say, "Oh, that's, maybe that it helps them have a little more understanding or a little
yeah.
more excitement for that." But can you tell us about Sorry Sorry Summers and what inspired you to write it and what that was like for you to write versus just illustrating?
Yeah. So Sari-Sari Summers is inspired by my own grandmother, who actually also owned a Sari-Sari store. So for those people who don't know what a Sari-Sari store is, it's like a little mom and pop shop where we sell all kinds of stuff in there. Yeah, and how different it is from a big box store is that we sell the things in small packets. I always have love explaining this to kids, like, why are they in small packets? And it's very, because it's very convenient, affordable, right? Maybe you only have enough money for this much. You
Right.
only have money for this particular dish today, right? And just for this meal. Or it's just so convenient too. Like, where else can you go to buy a cup of soy sauce?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I only need this much. And then also, it's such a community thing. The store is like uniquely Filipino. It's very community based.
Hmm.
Yeah. So everybody knows everybody. Like, so I grew up with when I helped my grandmother, I remember people would come and buy what they need, but they didn't bring the money, or they their parent forgot to give them the money. And then my grandmother would say, "Just come back, just come back. I know where you live." Kind of like that. They know everybody. So Sari Sari Store is such a community thing where there's trust. There's they look for you when they haven't seen you in a while. It's like so unique. So that's the inspiration, and I wanted to highlight it because it's so uniquely Filipino. And yet, in the many story times that I've done, the kids would say, "You know what? In my country, we have the same thing or a similar thing." So it's unique, but we have similar versions of this one thing, and I think that brings us together. Right? It's cool to know that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that because my husband's from Costa Rica, and when we go there, they have something similar. It's like the little store that's at the corner in the neighborhood that everybody goes.
Right.
And like you said, and a lot of times they'll send the kids, and maybe they forget to give the kids enough change to do it, or
Yeah.
so the kids will stop by on their way home from school, and it is much more community based, like you said, like or everybody in the neighborhood
Right.
knows each other.
Yeah, I have so many touching stories where people, especially I think, they just see the book and it feels that someone wrote about their own story. It feels like I've touched on something that there's a hunger. I feel like there's a craving for more Filipino stories
Yeah.
because it's not so highlighted. But we're growing in numbers, and I'm so happy that we have more Filipino books out there, Filipino theme books, Filipino American books, and it's just so heartwarming to know that we're growing. But there still needs to be more. We still need more stories out there. I think it's a great way for people to know more about the Philippines.
Right.
Not a lot of people still know where the Philippines is. So I always ask, like, do you know where the Philippines is?
What do the kids say? Do they have much idea?
Yeah, some people say Asia. Yes,
Uh,
some kids don't know.
right.
Some kids don't know. Yeah, and it's good as an introduction to the country and our culture, and yeah, a lot of and there's a spread there in the book where it's speech bubbles, and they're all Filipino. I did not translate it, and I did not italicize it on purpose, so that I always encourage the readers to figure out what the meanings are
Oh,
based
neat.
on the context in the picture, and also yeah, for them to learn, like just look it up, what the words mean, and
Right.
yeah, and some are similar. Like for example, para, which means stop in Spanish.
Right.
We use the same word. So it's when we stop the jeepney, like we say para.
Mhm.
And it's like, hey, how are you? Kamusta is very similar to Spanish. Yeah.
Right. And I know
So
that something, I mean, when you're talking about like the language and the food and the culture, the family ties, that's something that you really look for is where you can work on stories where those are all intertwined. Can you tell us a little more about that?
yeah, so my dream is to always is to one day but maybe have that kind of book to work on. And Kailani's gift is similar to that, where there's food and Sari-Sari Summers, food, culture, and family relationships. Because food, I love food.
Yeah.
I love making it. I love eating it. I love food.
Yeah.
Food is food brings people together. As a
Mhm.
matter of fact, like when Filipinos come and greet you before we say, "How are you?" we say, "Have you eaten?" Yeah, "Did you eat yet?" And that's our way to say welcome. So food is always crucial to a culture, and to when you bring family, that makes the food together, that makes it even better. So that's the kind of story that I kind of would like to work on one day and illustrate one day. Yeah, I love that. I love that, bringing it all together. But in essence, also a lot of the books that I've worked on have a lot of humor and a lot of heart, and I think I'm drawn to those stories where there's it's a little bit touching, and then at the end there's like a little twist that makes you laugh.
Yeah. Well, so can you tell us any about your upcoming projects? I mean, we've kind of talked about the books you've worked on. I don't know, sometimes people can't say very much about it depending on what stage it's at, but what are you working on now?
I I have two books coming out, and one that's not announced, but the two have been announced. And one, I think we could talk about it because we did a video about it. It's called Miles Ahead. It's with Minle, who wrote a lot of books and was very known in our industry. He he is the author of a lot of Dance and Tuts um, illustrated works too. So they partner up together. And Minlay is also another person that is like, I would love to work with Minlay. Check. Yeah, dream achieved. Yeah. So I finished a picture book called Miles Ahead, and it's a story about family going on a road trip who has a cousin to visit, a baby cousin, and so they have a gift for that baby cousin, but the gift goes missing. So
Mm.
They have to go and look around and look for a gift that maybe they find or not find, or maybe they'll find a different gift.
Ah, I love it. When is that coming out? Or
That
do
is
you know?
coming out, I think spring 2026. I'm currently working on sketches for a picture book by Jean Reedy, who also wrote Truman and Sylvie, very wonderful books.
Mm.
I feel so fortunate to work on this next picture book of hers that has a lot of kids, a lot more diverse kids.
Nice.
There are 22 named kids, in fact, in this one.
Wow. That's a lot of kids.
Each one of them unique. So wait for that one. That comes out 2027.
Wow.
And then a picture book that's not yet announced. So wait. Hopefully, I think that's 2028.
Oh, you're busy.
Yeah, so I'm happy. So like, and you know what the good thing is about in this industry is I came late in it. I feel like I'm still such a newbie because it's only been 5 years or 6 years that I got published at 45, age 45.
Mm.
So the good thing is that there is no age limit in this industry. And I encourage everyone to, you feel like, oh no, it's too late for me. It's too late. No, it's not too late. There is hope.
I love that. What a great message. I didn't realize, I was thinking that you had been published for longer. It's amazing how much you've done in that short amount of time.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think it just kept going, which is so good, so good. And I think because of the chapter books too, that that's one and one after the other, and that was quick. That made it appear like there's so many more books.
Right, right. Well, thank you. Yes, they thought it was longer too, definitely. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. And it's exciting to hear about the new books that are coming out. So we will keep an eye out for those and share about them when they are out. And so nice to talk with you. And anybody who's joining us, as always, this will be up in a few minutes on Instagram if you missed the beginning of it, and we will also have it later on our YouTube channel. So thank you for taking the time to talk with us. It was so much fun.
I thank you for having me, and I had so much fun. But I'm so nervous all the time. I don't know if I'll ever get comfortable, but you made me feel so at peace and welcome. So
Oh,
thank you.
I'm so glad to hear that. Well, you couldn't tell you were nervous at all, so it was really nice to chat with
It was nice
you.
meeting you.
And thank you, Annie, for your lovely comments. All right. Bye, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.